US President Joe Biden has made comments on the Israel-Hezbollah war. The US President has announced the need for ceasefire. He says that it's time for a ceasefire as far as this whole situation is concerned. These comments coming after the elimination of Hezbollah chief Nasrallah.
President, if a ground incursion into Lebanon inevitable, time for a ceasefire.
Will you visit the hurricane site? Will you respond to the missile attacks on the U.S. warships? Will you respond to the missile attacks on the U.S. warships in the Red Sea?
We're responding.
Gaurav Sawant joining me for more on this story. Gaurav, as far as the US's position on the present situation is concerned, clearly things going out of hand, which is why the call for a ceasefire coming from the United States.
Well, there are two strengths or legs to this conversation. One, the U.S. President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they've both been quoted very extensively saying that Hassan Nasrallah and the terrorist group that he led, Hezbollah, are responsible for killing hundreds of Americans over a 4-decade reign of terror. His death from an Israeli airstrike is a measure for justice for many of his victims, including thousands of Americans, Israelis and Lebanese civilians. This is a statement that was issued by Joe Biden. He did say that the strike that killed Hassan Nasrallah was a response to the terror group's decision to open up a northern front against Israel on the 7th, October onslaught. At the same time, they've called for a diplomatic agreement to end fighting both in Lebanon and in Gaza. So two aspects to this. One, the US says it's a just measure of justice, and two, it's calling for a ceasefire. What is extremely significant is while there's been a lot of global pressure to cease fire, Israel has constantly said that the same pressure is not there on Hamas, for example, to release all the hostages. If hostages are released, it would create an environment for a ceasefire to be created, or for talks to begin. But when the first step is not taken, which is releasing hostages who've been held by Hamas for close to a year now, how can there be talk of a ceasefire? Harshit.
Thanks, Gaurav, for bringing us all those details. US President Joe Biden has made comments on the Hezbollah-Israel war and has asked for a ceasefire.